Hi, everybody.
I feel like you have to say hi, guys.
I did say hi, guys. Hi, guys. Rita Moreno was my guest on my show yesterday, and a lot of you are probably too young for this, but I loved the electric company when I was little, and I forgot that Rita Moreno was the one that said, "Hey, you guys," and I thought like I didn't bring it up to her on my show because it's not like I try to make it about other people on my show, and truly like my manager's laughing real hard. And truly, sometimes, like, to get people comfortable, I'll just, like, talk and talk and talk, and then we'll just cut it all out in post, like I'm doing right now.
Totally.
But anyway, I didn't bring it up, but I wondered if maybe subconsciously somewhere my tiny person, tiny Busy Phillips, watching Rita Moreno got you guys from Electric Company.
I love that, like an inception somehow.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, your show might be about you talking to guests and making them feel comfortable and talking about them. But today we are going to talk about you, which I'm really excited about. And I'm sure you're all very interested in hearing Busy's story, right?
They're like, we feel like we know everything. What more can she say?
And like, if you'd like additional content, please tune into her Instagram stories.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about how to create your own story and how to hustle to get to where you want to be. And I think the first part that's important to address is how it all starts. And that is, generally speaking, slowly and then with great purpose. So on that note, let's talk about your origin story, Busy. What were you like as a kid and what were you interested in?
I was a very active little person, which is part of the reason why my name was Busy. My nickname was Busy, short for Elizabeth. If you didn't know that, I don't know what to tell you. And I was always like I was always very into storytelling, and from a very young age, gravitated towards being in plays. I had a really bad lisp. I was like Cindy Brady. I couldn't say my S's or my TH's or my R's, my A's. And actually our little one, our 5-year-old, can't say her R's, and it's so fucking cute. I can't take it. But because of that, my mother, in addition to like the speech therapy that I went to in like 3rd and 4th grade, really encouraged me to perform because she felt like that would give me confidence and would help. And I never had a lack of confidence, even though I had like a speech impediment and giant Coke bottle glasses and braces and like all of the things that would maybe lead you to think that you would retreat. I like always was expanding. I've always been an expander and a pusher.
So at what point did you start thinking about the kind of work you wanted to do? And did you have a sense of how to parlay who you are, into a career?
I mean, the goal was always for me to be an actor. I always wanted to do that. And
like even as a little kid?
As a very small child, yeah, like a fourth grader. It was either marine biology or acting.
Isn't it always? They're very similar.
And I really liked dolphins, you guys. Anyway, so I knew I wanted to be an actor, and I was dying I talk about it in my book, like I was dying to move to Los Angeles and pursue it, and I had some friends in Arizona that actually had agents in LA, and so I knew I was a little bit aware of what that business was, and I just thought that I should do that. But I was very lucky that my mom put me into like creative theater programs outside of school as well, where I wrote plays and I did my own sort of creating. I wrote monologues and plays and things like that I performed. So I was creating my own stuff. But like when I started in the entertainment industry, you weren't really, we call them, like a hyphenate. Like there weren't too many people that were creating their own content to put forward. Like it would have been literally outrageous or insane for me to think at age 18 I could like create something for myself to star in. There were no platforms for that. There was no way to do it, and there was a whole system in place. Like even when I talked to Meg Ryan at the Bentonville Film Festival. I interviewed her.
Casual,
guys. I was freaking the fuck out, and And there's a point in her career where she like where she became a producer. And I asked her about that, and she said, well, it had never occurred to me before. And she was like a huge, huge star at that point. But like the business was just set up a certain way into the early 2000s with the advent of the internet and, you know, these websites that started with the Lonely Island, and these people started like doing their own content. That wasn't like a thing that ever occurred to me.
Interesting. So you had some really great successes early in your acting career, including Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah. Oh, I would say that was like the big one.
And yeah, and Dawson's Creek. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are big Deep
But that
Creek.
came after. That came after.
Still.
That wouldn't have been possible without Freaks and Geeks.
But they were pretty much back to back. They were
Yeah.
very close. And so I'm curious about the best things that you learned on those jobs and the worst part about them.
Well, I would say that I was incredibly, I mean, beyond lucky that my first job in the industry was on Freaks and Geeks and working with Judd Apatow and Paul Feig and Jake Kasdan, because the three of them really encouraged all of us to be participatory in the process in a way that like not a lot of other showrunners or people directing network television in 1998 would probably be encouraging of like 16 through 21-year-olds. Like,
How would they do that?
well, those guys in particular were always asking our opinions and just validating our choices and asking us to participate. Like, we're trying to figure out that we're thinking about this scene where Daniel and Kim are getting into a fight. Will you guys just like after the table read, can we just like just ad lib, like just have fun and play out this scene how it might go? So they let us in on that process, which is incredibly rare I mean, maybe not, I don't know. It is rare in my experience.
And certainly rare at that point in time.
Yes.
In the industry.
Yes. And I think that they were always, I mean, Judd, especially like maybe more so with, like anything you guys have that you're working on writing, like bring it to us. And, I just always felt like, oh, okay, I could do something too, and then when Seth, because right after Freaks and Geeks, he and Seth sold Undeclared together, with Seth and his 18-year-old writing partner from Canada, Evan Goldberg. It's like, just like hanging out in Canada waiting. It had never occurred to me that was something I could do, that I could sell my own shows. But seeing that and being so close to it made it feel like, well, why not me? Why can't I do that too?
And what were the most difficult parts about it?
I mean, moving to Dawson's Creek from Freaks and Geeks was a little bit of a transition because, like I said, where we had an incredibly, we were really involved in the process on Freaks and Geeks, and I felt very valued as a performer and a creative person. I would say, I felt sort of the exact opposite on Dawson's Creek, and I felt personally a lot of the pressures that I talk about this in my book that I hadn't felt as a woman on Freaks and Geeks, because they were so hyper aware and very sensitive to please don't diet, don't change the way you look, you guys are perfect, we love who you are and what you're bringing to the table. And when I got to Dawson's Creek, it was a lot of well, I think what we need to focus on is highlighting your cleavage and then just trying to hide every other part of your body. That was a real thing that the wardrobe person said to me. And they there was a note from, it was unclear. I've never gotten clarity where the note came from, either the network or one executive. You never fucking know, that they should cover up all of my moles, my skin. What the fuck? It's the craziest thing. So that was sort of one of the first times that I felt like my body wasn't good enough, my skin wasn't good enough. I needed to change who I was to try to fit into this the WB mold. And then I'm wait, do I want to be in this? What is this? Do I need to be in a people pile? I don't know. If you guys don't remember, the advertisements for all the WB shows used to be just hot teens in piles. Generally shot overhead, Sometimes they were all wearing black or like.
Those were the artsy ones.
Those were the artsy ones. And they were just like heaped in a pile, hot people.
And so you questioned whether or not you wanted that to be your career.
It was hard. It was really hard for me because on one hand, I really did want it to be my career, of course. Like I was looking to belong and looking to fit in an industry that in that moment was telling me like, well, you're not fucking good enough the way that you are, girl, so you better figure it the fuck out. And
that's got to feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. It wasn't great for my brain, but you know, I internalized a lot of it. Like, it's like, I'm very open about this, but it's no secret that my like IBS and spastic colon coincides exactly with my time on Dawson's Creek. Like, that's when it started. Yeah. Still have it. But
that's a great souvenir.
Yeah, so happy. So yeah, so that was tough, and then you know after that, it was hard. It was always a struggle. I tried to develop shows. I tried to sell shows. I tried to be creative in other. I tried to sell a movie. Or tried to write a movie. You know, it was tough. Like I was always trying to figure out my voice and my expression and where I fit in. When I had sold this show, when I was like right after Dawson's Creek, I was paired with this like I say very old now, he's probably younger than my current age, but this old like white television writer guy who like had a fucking deal at Sony and had a deal at whatever, and I was partnered with that guy just through my managers putting me with him, and the script was terrible and like it wasn't at all what I had envisioned, but I didn't know to have the agency to be like, well, no, let me pick the person and let me find, and I'll work with them. It was all a learning process. Also, I was like 22, but.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were also very, very young.
I was.
So even though you have worked continuously ever since then, and you've really had this really amazing career, I also know that there have been some fallow periods. Mm-hmm. And I also know that we talk about pilot season and about how that has changed and now become like a year-round process.
Yeah.
But maybe you could talk a little bit about what pilot season used to be like, how it's like all of this lead up for so long, and then also what you would do during downtime when you weren't on a show and you weren't auditioning. Like, what would you do to keep busy?
Yes. Pilot season used to be wild, guys. Yeah, back in the day. No, but yeah, because it used to be there was like 4 networks, and they all had their pilot season at the same time. So everyone was like vying for, you know, getting their pilot, because also they used to pay you better as an actor. That's like gone downhill for pilots. You used to make, basically you would make your quote, your per episode quote, you would make double that for a pilot. So it gave actors like myself, especially starting out, like a lot of freedom, because making that much money for 2 weeks of work, even if the show didn't get picked up, I was like good and didn't feel pressure to get another job for a long period of time. I could live on that like pilot fee. They got rid of that in like the early 2000s because the networks were like, why are we paying these people all this money? They want the fucking jobs. We'll just find some girl from Canada who wants it, who will do it for cheaper. No shade to Canada. It's not their fault. But anyway, so it used to be sort of wild. Pilot season was like a crazy few weeks of auditions and callbacks and tests, and then you would get your show, tape your show. I've done so many pilots. I've auditioned for so many shows. I've tested for so many shows that I didn't get.
What do you do in the downtime then?
Well, that was always kind of hard for me. I mean, I was in my 20s, so I guess I was bored. And I had no kind of outlet for it. But I feel like I was always kind of working on something. Like I didn't have that much downtime. Only a couple times, like in my very early 20s, and this was right after Freaks and Geeks, I re-registered for some college, like to go back to college. And then I got a job and I had to drop out anyway. So
See ya, college.
yeah, so it was done.
So as someone who has spent a fair amount of time with your IMDb, which I have to say it's remarkable how much you were doing while also having a full-time job. For example, when you were on Cougar Town for 6 years, you also must have done at least 20 other shows, because I counted using math, plus several movies, plus voiceover work. Like all of that was happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Where in the world does all of that hustle come from?
Well, I said I'm a pusher, and I really mean it. Like, I'm a fucking pusher. And my assistant actually, just backstage, Raymond, was like, oh, okay, so I need to talk to you about the week after. When I'm doing my show, guys, I didn't know this is how a talk show works. You don't get breaks.
It's what happens when you get your dream.
No one told me that they just like roll through, like you just keep going. And okay. So no, but I'm happy to do it. But I did say I was adamant that we take my girls on spring break. And so when I come back from spring break, I guess I'm doing like 4 shows that week. And then I have to shoot a special thing for Aerie because I have a deal with them now for this year. And then I have to do a 2-day commercial shoot for Michaels because I'm their spokesperson for 3 years because I insisted that my agent harass them until they agreed to have a spokesperson. This is true. Like 4 years ago, I was like, the only thing I want is to be the spokesperson for the craft store Michaels. And they're like, we don't do that. We don't need celebrities to sell crafts.
But they do, and I'm sure they're really pleased.
Turns out, here I am. But anyway, like he basically was going through my schedule and he's like, it's gonna be insane. And I was like, it's always insane. I'm just used to it and I like it. And I also like it's feast or famine. And so I have had the downtime. Right after Cougar Town, I was incredibly selective about the things that I was doing. Like my priorities have shifted a lot in terms of I won't take jobs that will take me to another country or another city for long periods of time because my girls are little and they're only little for a finite period of time. Like I understand that fundamentally. And if I don't have to make that decision, like for financial reasons, even if it's like I'm passing up something that could be like a huge show or whatever, it's just not worth it to me because I don't know. I brought them into the world. You know what I mean? Like, I owe it to them to fucking be there. So, again, like, I travel for work. I have no shade to, like, anyone who wants to make other choices in their lives. It's just not. I don't think I would actually be able to do my job the way that I have to do it if I wasn't able to see my kids every day. I don't know. They're just, like, a part of me.
Literally.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that's really interesting about your industry is there's such a lack of control for most actors, just in the sense of you're not creating your own stuff necessarily. You're not necessarily the one who's lighting or who's editing or who's shooting or who's directing. Or casting is not up to you. How do you deal? I think that's obviously changing for you, especially being executive producer of your own late night talk show, which is on E! At 11. Check your local listings.
Monday through Thursday.
And there's going to be a live version.
Tomorrow, if you guys want to come, it's at the Container Bar, not the Container Store. Yeah. The Container Bar at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow. And Nick Kroll and Retta are my guests. And Whitney, I'll tell you guys, Whitney Cummings just texted me and she's like, I saw you're in Austin. Do you have some time to go out to the Central Texas Pig Rescue? And I was like, no, I don't. Like, what are you talking about? No, I don't have time to do that. And she's like, oh, do you want me to send piglets to you? And I was like, yeah, I do. That's 100% something you could do. And so I think that hopefully it'll work out. And I think that they're gonna come and bring us piglets.
Show plus piglets.
I think there's gonna be pigs at the show, guys. Is all I'm gonna say. So.
Actual awesome ones.
Hi, Erica. actual piglets.
Okay, that's great. So, but let's talk about control.
Okay.
So, when you feel out of control in your career, or you've had moments when you have felt like you didn't have full agency over your own career story, what do you do? How do you handle that? I think we all feel out of control sometimes.
Or like
Maybe.
all the time, or most of the time.
At least I do.
I do too. You know, for me, it's been such a learning process. And how do you regain control, or what ways do you take control, especially working in the entertainment industry? And yeah, things have shifted dramatically in this business in the 20 years that I've been participating in it. One of the things that grew out of my frustration and my boredom and my lack of control was me turning to Instagram and the Instagram stories and finding an outlet and a way to make little bits of content every day and tell stories in that way. And actually, very interestingly, Moj? Yeah, like
BeautyCon Moj?
Yeah, BeautyCon Moj. Like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, before I had started Instagram stories, I was at we have a mutual friend's birthday party, and she was like, you know what you should do? And she's like a fucking genius, right? And she's like, you know what you should do? You should be the first like legit actor to become a YouTube star. And I was like, oh, that's not for me. And she's like, okay, well, you could make $1 billion. And I was like, okay, well, it's not for me, because I had, like an idea of what that meant or what that was. And she was kind of right, because the Instagram thing was proof of that, but I needed to find it in my own way and do it in my own way. And I really, really hate the word vlog. So it wouldn't have worked.
So let's fast forward. It's kind of a gross word.
Yeah.
It sounds like a bodily function. I'll stop. So let's fast forward to the era of social media and your book, and then your talk show, Busy Tonight. So you're really a tour de force on Instagram, and I'm one of your millions of people who follows you and follows your stories. Why do you think you're so successful in that medium?
I don't know.
You do.
I do a little bit, but then also, honestly, it's like I don't know. I really don't know. Like, if I could, like that girl who was like trying to do those seminars, like, did you guys read that article?
No. Oh,
so good. That article was so good.
Yes, the social media.
She was like, I'll show you how to do it.
Yes.
And she was like, look it up. It's a good article.
New York Magazine.
It's a New York Magazine. Thank you. Sometimes I don't know if I've read things in like a legit publication or like just peoplemag.com. And so I'm always like terrified to say, because I'm like, it was either in the New Yorker or just Jared. I consume it all. No shame. So what was the question?
Why are you successful?
Why am I successful at this? I don't know, Hillary. I feel like when I started doing Instagram stories, they were very early. It was like I was an early adapter. Like, it was like the first few weeks that they had started. And I think that, as opposed to just, I think I was I'm the generation of like the Real World and like early reality shows. And I think I was using it as my own personal reality show in a way before people were kind of realizing that you could do it like that, and that was an effective way to connect with people. And I wasn't doing it with the intention that I wanted an effective way to connect with people or have them engage. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, don't answer my questions. Like, I'm not asking you fucking questions. Like, I really rail against that. Like, all those things that are supposed to get you engagement and get you like, it makes me want to vomit. Like, guys, because it's almost summertime. What's your favorite drink?
Because it feels inauthentic?
It is inauthentic. It's always inauthentic
unless you're asking for queso recommendations in Austin, which I have done on mine, and that yielded good information.
You can tell, but you can always tell. I can always tell the difference between someone being like, guys, I'm going to Austin for 24 hours. Where am I getting my queso? And what's the best like bounce workout, right? Or whatever. And like somebody like leaving a picture of them and they're like, almost summertime, what's your favorite drink? Like, what? Like, what does it one have to do with the other? What are you doing? Like, you just want me to comment so that the algorithm will push you to the top? Like, I fucking get it. Anyway, so that like stuff really bugs me, clearly. But I think that I was using it, I think I was using the stories just in a very personal and intimate way. And I think I was in a place in my life where I did want to connect with people. And I found it to be a really incredible way to feel less alone in all of the things I was going through, like feeling alone, you know, in my career and feeling isolated in my marriage at the time and having small children and trying to work and not finding work or not getting the kind of work I wanted. And I just found a great deal of comfort in putting it into the ether and not expecting anything in return.
Because I remember, Busy and I work out together.
Lec Fit, guys.
Yes, also known as LEK Fit.
It's not. She agreed to change it.
Oh my God. So anyway, and I remember seeing you one time and you were like, holy shit, I did this thing on Instagram stories and like, there's like 1 million people who have commented on it or responding to it. And you were like so perplexed by it. Yeah. And it was so charming also that I was like, yeah, because you're good.
Yeah, I was
and
confused.
But you were it did seem to come from a very authentic place. I can tell you behind the scenes from our workout class that that is a verifiable fact.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I just started to notice that, you know, all of a sudden my Instagram stories were becoming like picked up by Just Jared and People Mag, and like I was like, wait, what? This is a story on the Daily Mail? Like that was just my Instagram story from last night about my raccoons fucking. Like, how is this international news? But we're in a time of constant content for everyone. And so, you know, that helped accelerate that aspect for me because it was getting picked up and sort of like proliferated into the world.
So speaking of that, one of the other amazing things about social media is that it's quite lucrative. And you've also been pretty candid about that as well.
Oh yeah, I fucking love it, yeah.
So at what point did you realize that monetizing your social media was another great stream of revenue? And how do you determine who to work with? Like real nitty gritty, don't just tell me it has to be authentic. Like what does that actually mean?
Right, I mean, well, like we've had this discussion, like it doesn't matter how much money, I won't do like a diet, one of those diet things, like the diet teas. Like if they did come and they were like, well, they wouldn't, but like if they, I've tried to find out how much those women get paid for it. We've talked about it, haven't we? Right, because it's fucking fascinating to me.
It's not a small amount.
It's not small. But I don't think I would do it. I don't think I could. So gross. But, you know, it just depends.
Do you go
it depends
to them?
On,
Do they come to you?
Oh, no, it's all incoming, except for Michael's. Which is truly like the nerdiest thing of all time that I was just like, Michael's has such, like, I have such deep nostalgia for going to Michael's when I was a little kid with my mom on Saturdays and like picking out our crafts for the weekend. And like, I'm a baker, I love to bake. And now I have these two little girls. I could go on and on. That's a very genuine thing. Yeah, because that was an outgoing call. Oh, and I've been trying to get like Thinks or the Diva Cup to give me some money because I fucking love them too, but they're not interested, so.
Wait, let's actually take a minute to think about that. I think there's I believe in The Secret.
Yeah.
And I believe in manifesting things and putting things out there. And no, I've never actually read The Secret, but I get the gist.
We know what The Secret is, Hillary.
I mean, like, I read the Wikipedia about it. So what do you want? What do you want? Who do you want to be a spokesperson for? Who should give you money to talk about their product?
I mean, I love the Diva Cup so much. I have one in right now.
Great.
And I don't even have my period. No, I'm kidding.
Well, they're a startup, so let's think about institutional money.
I know, that's the problem. Maybe they should give me a cut and I'll help them grow their brand like how Gwyneth Paltrow does or whatever. I don't know.
You don't have a bucket list of like
brands to partner with? No.
Yeah.
But because it's more like, I don't know, like it's tough for me. I really like the brand partnerships and some of the ones, like I have a big one that's coming out soon, which it feels really special to me, which I can't talk about yet, but, and then the Aerie thing was really cool. So now it's getting to be like less just like one-off posts and more partnerships, like brand partnerships, which I like. I guess I prefer a little bit more. But when I look at like when the incoming calls, when Carol Gall is my like badass agent at ICM, who really is, I think, the best. I don't even she is so good at her job. It's insane. But when she brings things to me, you know, she gives her opinion on it. And some things are just like obvious no's. And then some things are like, well, if they could get money, if they could get more money, maybe this is something you would consider. And then it's like, what is the ask? So a lot of times, because I'm not just like a social media influencer, because I'm also like, I guess, a celebrity and an actor and a mom and all of those things that I'm known for.
And a talk show host.
And a talk show host and a mother. Right. Did I say mom? I said it already. They'll ask for me to do press days too, which is like different than just posting one-off. So that's a lot of time and energy, and it's exhaustive for me. Like, and it used to be before the talk show started, those are the ones that are way more lucrative. Like you could make a ton of money, and I would be more willing to do those when I was not working
but now
anywhere
you have
else.
another stream of constant revenue and
But
responsibility.
like, yeah, but I mean, I do have to supplement because I'm like definitely I'm taking a pay cut to do the talk show, which is great because this is part of my dream. If we're just being gross and talking about money, which is fine.
Should.
I don't care. It's a business. But so I do need to supplement with some of these other things. But it has to, now I'm a little bit pickier about like what are the terms and how long and what are they asking of me and what are the products and sometimes I fuck up. Like I didn't know about, I posted, okay, here's all I know is that I got asked to do one post for milk, and my daughter Cricket like truly is obsessed with milk and fucking loves drinking milk. And I've talked to her, like you guys, in a way that is like, all right, like that's a lot of milk. Right? She's like, my husband's here. She's like milk obsessed. And I'm fine. I don't drink milk. We don't like other than queso, I try to stay away from dairy, you know? But anyway, but I was like, what's the harm in posting for milk? Because this is actually something my daughter like loves. And then I found out that there's big dairy and people are very mad about it. And I probably wouldn't, if I had known that like so many people would have been very angry. But the word that they use is disappointed. They're just like, people are disappointed in me.
Oh, the worst.
I'm like, well, I don't know what to fucking tell you.
Sometimes you try, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it
Yeah.
doesn't. So speaking of something that did work, and did work in a very big way, let's talk about your book.
Oh, my book. Okay.
Which was an instant, and I do not use that word lightly, New York Times bestseller.
Oh.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Thanks.
It's called This Will Only Hurt a Little.
Yeah.
And it came out this past October.
Yes.
And I bought it both at a small independent bookstore as well as through Amazon.
Nice.
So there, you count
Thank
two
you.
spots on that for me.
That's so nice.
Why did you decide to sit down and write a book, and why was it important to tell your own story?
Well, I've always wanted to write a book about myself.
I mean, who doesn't? This is a very natural human condition.
Like literally my entire life. But because based largely on the success of my Instagram, I was asked by an editor at a small imprint of Simon and Schuster if I would, they presented me with this book deal, and my book agent was like, this is a pretty great deal. And if you want to do this, and I wasn't working at the time, I didn't know what I was really doing yet. The idea for the talk show hadn't happened, hadn't occurred to me yet.
We're going to get there.
And it felt like the right time. I was going to Boston with Mark for his movie, I Feel Pretty. And I knew that I was not going to be working on that film that much, and I would have time. And, the timing felt very right. And I think that my editor, when she came to me, probably was like thinking that it would be, much like my Instagram, just like quirky stories about like being a mom and being in Hollywood and what my life has been like in Hollywood. And to me, that wasn't going to be the most interesting version of myself that I could put forward. And the thing that I really felt was important at this period in my life and where I had gotten was to include all of the things, including the traumatic things like being raped when I was 14 or having an abortion when I was 15, and writing about those things as sort of like truthfully and honestly as I could. And then also, in addition to those things, the struggle of working in Hollywood and being a woman in this industry. And, it's interesting because I started writing the book like 6 months before, the Harvey Weinstein articles came out, and like Me Too happened and Time's Up, but it all felt like, I really do feel like after Donald Trump got elected, there was just like this like collective shift for a lot of women where we were like, oh wait, we can't fucking do this anymore. We're going to die. And I personally felt like I was done holding on to all of these things that I felt I was supposed to hold on to just because I was a woman, and I wanted to fucking let go of them, and so I did.
Good.
Here we are.
Which I loved. I picked it up thinking it was going to be a lighthearted romp, and it punched me in the gut in a really wonderful way.
Aww.
And I think I emailed you this. It made me re-examine my own life, and it's really powerful. It's also funny.
Thank you.
So it's not just like wring your insides out, but if you guys haven't purchased it, it is available on Amazon.com and
if
in
my
local
voice,
bookstores everywhere.
Yeah, and if my voice doesn't bug you, you can listen to me reading it.
There you go, audiobook.
Yeah.
So another big development in your career is the talk show.
Yes.
That you not only star in, but also executive produce.
Correct.
So tell me how that came about.
Well, I was continuing to sort of try to figure out what I was doing as an actor, and I got this incredible pilot for NBC that Tina Fey was producing, and it starred me and Casey Wilson as sisters, and Bradley Whitford played our dad, and I just like thought that was going to be the next 6 years of my life, and like I was so set that this was the thing, and then it didn't get picked up. I literally found out while I was on a Disney cruise with my family, and I was devastated and heartbroken in a way that I was like, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I can't do this to myself anymore. Like I love acting so much, and it means everything to me and has saved my life so many times. And it also ultimately, I thought, is going to be the thing that like kills me. And I didn't want to do it. I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't think of like how I would push, like how I would keep pushing. And I met with Eric Gurian, who's sitting over here, who's runs Tina Fey's production company. And because he was like, after the show didn't get picked up, he's like, Tina and Robert and I were talking, and like we should still like figure something else out. Like we should work together. And that is, I mean, like if you had told me 10 years ago that like the guy that works with Tina Fey that's telling me that Tina Fey and they want to work with me, and I would say like, I don't know, I'm not really into it. I don't think I can do it anymore. I don't even know what I would have thought, but it's just where I had gotten to that I was so fucking sad. And also I was like, I don't even know what television is. Like where do you even watch it? And there's so many fucking shows, and I don't know. Like it was hard for me. What do I want to say? What are the things that I want to say? What do people want me to say? What's important to put into the world right now? I was having like all of these crises at once. And then my manager, Julie Darmody, had a big birthday, and she's sitting right here. And I realized I was going to say her age, and then maybe that's not nice. But she had a big birthday, and it was in Palm Springs at the Merv Griffin Estate, and we went, and I got stoned, and then I like turned to Mark, and I was like, I think I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be a late night talk show host. There are no women anymore. Chelsea left the space. It's all men. There has to be a woman. There needs to be a woman's voice in late night television. And he's like, all right, if that's what you want to do. So I called Eric and and I said, that's what I want to do. And it really weirdly, very quickly came together with E, and they were so supportive. And I had a meeting with ICM where before it was like certain that Little Stranger was going to want to produce it with me, I had a meeting with ICM and sat across from all of the dude agents that handle this thing. Talk shows it's a whole different world. And I was just really specific, like The Secret. I was like very specific. And I said like, look, I think there's like two places this could go. Either E, or we convince them to give me Carson Daly's late night spot on NBC, and I can have that show. Which, by the way, Carson Daly did just give up, and a woman got it. Oh my God, what's her name? Lily Singh. Yeah. Yeah, so she's taking over that spot because I'm fucking right about everything. So you laugh, but it's true. So anyway, and so they and the agents were nice, but they were definitely like, okay, slow down, like slow your roll a little bit. And I sort of just felt like, well, you do not understand what I'm telling you. I'm going to have a late night talk show this year. You can either get on board or I'll find someone else. And then like a couple weeks later, Eric called me and he's like, so Tina had a call with E today, and it feels like, yeah, we're going to go in there and sit down with them. It feels like they want to do it. It came together in terms of the way that things like this work, like very quickly. So it was about a year after I got stoned in the desert to when we premiered the show. Yeah.
So since the last time we talked about this publicly, which was back in September, on your amazing episode of a really extremely good podcast that you should all download called Second Life.
Hillary's podcast.
Which is mine. You were just in the early days of the show, and we didn't spend a ton of time on it. So what have you learned over the past handful of months about manifesting the show into what you want it to be?
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult because, you know, things that I thought were going to be really difficult are not the things that ended up being the things that I have found to be really difficult. You know, it is a grind, and that was one thing that all of the male talk show hosts, the late night talk show hosts, most of them,
The club called you?
Yeah, they called me on speaker. They didn't, but I talked to Stephen Colbert and his showrunner. I talked to Seth and his showrunner, and Jimmy Kimmel and his wife Molly. Molly and I are friends, and we text. And actually, she sometimes like texts me ideas for the show, which is really amazing because she's also his head writer. So that's. But just like they're, you know, if they have like an idea that's like, well, this isn't for us, but like you should, you know. But everybody was like, 4 nights a week is going to kill you. 4 nights a week is going to be impossible. You're going to want to kill yourself 4 nights a week, blah, blah, blah. And I felt so adamant about 4 nights a week because I felt like I wanted to do a nightly talk show where in the beginning I would go over some topical things from the day's events, maybe my own life, maybe pop culture vibes. We always initially, in thinking about the show, didn't want it to, be political in the sense that like telling like the Trump joke with the punchline and or like a different version of the same joke for all of the shows, right? But at the same time, like, I think that we do a really great job at being sort of subversive and, being political about being a woman and talking about bodies and, having someone get a pap smear on my show last week for Women's Week and trying to normalize a lot of things that you don't get a chance to see so much on television, maybe ever, but it was important to us to bring to the table those things. And we wanted the show to be a treat, and I wanted it to be positive in tone. And so trying to balance those things with also, having a perspective and a point of view, and then and then getting guests every week, like 4 guests a week, sometimes more if we have like a third segment person come in. That's been tricky. I didn't know that was going to be the thing that was going to be the most annoying, like booking people.
Schedules
And like people's ideas of what they want to put into the world, And I forget that not everyone feels the way that I do.
They should.
I think they should too. I think it's really beneficial, but I think it's hard for people to come around to feeling like it's okay to be open and it's okay to be vulnerable and yourself, Also, some people just don't have good personalities. That's just the truth. Sorry.
True, I've dated some. So
yes.
Before you can create your own story or hustle to where you want to be, you have to know who you are and what you want, and sometimes that's the hardest part of the journey. So as my last question before we turn to the audience for a few minutes of questions is this: how do you get in touch with your most authentic self and dreams? Maybe you should have read the questions beforehand.
No. Like weed, I guess. For me, that's how the talk show thing happened. No, I mean, I think it's a lot of like, I think like all of the cliches are true, right? Like you can't be too hard on yourself. You have to give yourself space, like to create, to figure out what it is that you want to say. Sometimes you're going to go into a thing thinking that you're going into it with one intention, and halfway through you're going to realize what the true intention is. Like it'll present itself. And, part of what I think has happened for me is also just like the passage of time. Like I talk about being a pusher, and that is definitely true. And the pushing got me to where I am today. But I wasn't particularly happy or satisfied in my 20s at all. I fucking hated my career. And I was bummed about it. And like, and we can all applaud for Freaks and Geeks now, but it like literally meant shit for like 7 years. Like no one cared from like 99 until, I don't know, whenever Judd released the DVDs, and then people like started to watch it. And now with streaming, obviously everybody's seen it, and it's an amazing show and something so wonderful to have been a part of. But it didn't do anything for me career-wise in my early 20s. So I spent a great deal of time like being bummed. And I think that's okay too. And like just pushing through and like moving through it to get to the point where I ultimately was like, and trying different stuff that some of it failed miserably. And now here we are. And like, this is like, okay.
Well.
It's all right. We're like getting there. We're getting there.
It's good.
It's good. I'm really proud of, look, in terms of my show right now and Busy Tonight, like I'm super fucking proud of what I've managed to push forward. And the team that we've assembled, and my partner Casey St. Ange, who's my showrunner, working with Tina, our creative staff is like 97% female. We have a lot of diversity represented on our staff behind the camera creatively. I'm really proud of what we're doing on our show, and I hope that people like figure out how to watch it and watch it.
That's your homework, y'all. Just
yeah,
saying.
I mean, it is like then
support female creators,
Yeah.
especially today.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because I hear from women, like women come up to me and they're like, oh my God, I love you so much. I'm so sorry, I haven't watched your show yet. I was like, okay, well,
we'll do that.
Why don't you do that?
Okay, so we have some questions that you guys have written in. First things first, your book was so honest, this is meaning hers, and bless you for writing it that way. Did your editors ever push back on any of the content?
Well, Krista. Wait, are these people in the audience?
Yeah.
This is so high tech. Sorry. I am like truly like one of the worst at technology, which is ironic, I know. My editor, I had a rough time with my editor, yeah. But she didn't push back on the content. I just think that we had like a fundamental, she didn't understand some of what I was trying to say or do. And we didn't work well together. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's honest.
Yeah, but ultimately, like I ended up with the book I wanted because I hired an outside person to help me edit, not write it. I wrote it.
Got it.
I didn't know that you could hire someone to write your book for you.
It's a thing.
I found that out. I'm glad I didn't know.
Because it's very honest and it sounds like you.
Yeah.
And that's also really important, I think.
Thank you.
So as women, how difficult have you found it to break into entertainment, and did you have any meaningful failures? And thank you for liking my Veronica Corningstone blazer.
Ooh, I love your Veronica Corningstone blazer.
It's actually Veronica Beard, but it makes me feel like Veronica Corningstone
right.
from Anchorman.
Anchorman.
Any meaningful failures for you? I mean, I feel like
so many.
The Sackett sisters,
Sackett Sisters was intense. The Blades of Glory, the screenplay that I tried to write with my ex-boyfriend and his brother, and then it like got taken away from me essentially by them, and then it's a story in my book. I can't get into it, but like that was like a very meaningful failure in my career in Hollywood.
It's a really amazing part of the book. I highly recommend that you read it.
Yeah, it's called, that chapter is movie script ending. Death Cab for Cutie.
So is your hustle now the same as your hustle in 1999?
I mean, anonymous, I would say. I don't know what that means exactly. I mean, I am doing more. I was so driven. I just ran into this guy I went to college with at a party, and I haven't seen him since college, and he was like, oh my God, I saw your billboard for Busy Tonight, and I turned to my girlfriend in the car and I said there was no one more driven than Busy Phillips at our college.
Did you feel that you were?
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm gonna fucking do this thing, and I'm gonna be like, I had it in my head that I would accept nothing less than being on a being on a TV show by age 19. Like that was like such a random, but yeah. But my hustle now is like constant. Like it's constant.
And probably more multifaceted.
Yes, exactly.
So another very hard-hitting but important question. Where are your cute earrings from?
Well, these are obviously Irene Neuwirth Mackenzie. My dear friend Irene. That's all.
Okay, so if there was a platform when you first started your career, what kind of projects do you think you would have created or pitched?
Okay.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
It is. I've thought about this a lot. If American Idol had existed when I was in high school, I would have auditioned and been on it. If I would have made it, guys. Probably top 10. That would have launched my career. Maybe I would have won. We don't know. If if YouTube or social media had existed, I would have for sure, like gone for it. And it could have turned out very terribly for me, but I would have been like one of those I would have vlogged. I would have been a vlogger. 100%.
So, last question, and then I think we're out of time. What have you learned that surprised you being EP of your show, that's executive producer?
I mean, I'm just there are so many questions to answer all the time from everyone about everything, and I really like it because I like making decisions. But
are you decisive?
I'm very decisive, yeah, for the most part. But I'm also good at like asking my showrunner Casey, you know, what does she think, or you know, and.
So you're a benevolent dictator.
I'm a benevolent dictator. I'm not a dictator.
But you're collaborative, right?
I try to be collaborative. Yeah, I try to be as collaborative as possible. And I'm trying to, sometimes I can sound like an asshole. Like just you know like how I have like resting bitch face? Sometimes I have like resting bitch voice that I have to try to remember to temper my voice when I'm talking to employees.
Well, it's kind of a different scene now, too. It's
also,
like
I work with my sister, so that's fucking hard, because I'm like, really, Leanne? That's what you want to do? And she's like, can you not do this in front of everyone? I'm like I immediately turn into a 17-year-old when my sister like pitches me ideas.
Okay, I lied. Last question.
Okay.
How do you tune out the haters?
Oh, wait, I have haters? I'm like not even kidding.
Okay, how would one turn out haters in general?
I truly pay no attention to it at all. Like when people, no, I really don't. Like the only time I got I almost like, remember I like almost lost my shit, was that someone posted, and I'm posting my kids less and less on my social media because like, when I started, it was literally like 2,000. I had 2,000 followers. It was like people I was friends with or had worked with. And so it never occurred to me to even think about not posting my kids. And my kids are so fucking beautiful and cute and amazing that I was like, of course I want to post them. But I'm posting them less and less now for a reason. But I did post this photo of Birdie, and some woman said something about my daughter, my 10-year-old daughter, about her ears. And I whispered it like in case my daughter could hear me in Los Angeles. I don't know. But I truly lost my mind for like, I mean, how long? Like 20 minutes or something? Like longer? You had to calm me down. I was like, this is not even a joke. Like I had a whole thing written where I was like, do you know what I can do? I can fucking find you and come to your house and I can fucking kill you. Like I went like, I shouldn't have even said that here. Like that, it was so dark. I was like, I truly saw red, like in a way. I was like, I'm gonna destroy this person's life. I'm going to destroy this person's life. I'm going to find them and destroy their life and make them lose their job, and they're gonna be out of their, like I went crazy. Like, how dare you talk about my 10-year-old's ears? And then I was like, oh, that's on me. I put her picture into the world, and I don't have to do that anymore. So I don't have to.
So fuck them.
What?
Fuck the haters.
Mostly fuck the haters, unless they say something about my kid, and then I'm going to destroy your life.
And on that note, I think that's all we have time for. Thank you, Busy, and thank you all for coming.